Back in the spring of 2020, I came up with the crazy idea of shooting a music video with my band. It was like crazy though, because this was in the middle of the global coronavirus pandemic. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to tell you how we managed to make this 3,000 miles apart with only $200 and things we had lying around the house. But of course, to execute any crazy idea, you need a good plan, and all good plans require a backstory and an intro. Hi, I'm Santino Campanelli, a musician and filmmaker based out of Los Angeles, and while I usually jump at the opportunity to regale you with tales of me, I don't think that's why you're here. I'm gonna kind of jump ahead and in 30 seconds just run through why this music video happened, and then I'll tell you how we pulled it off. Let's start the clock. In 2019, my band Scarlet, Carson got back together and we actually wrote and recorded our first new song since 2011. We even worked with an amazing team of producers and engineers, including Jay Rustin, Josh Wilbur, and Will Borza. I know, right? Now, with the song complete, the plan was to drop it in 2020, but then the world ended and continued to end, and then a few months into the ending not ending, we decided that life is short, the future is clearly uncertain, so let's just put this goodness out into the world and hope that it lifts a few spirits. So that's the backstory of the song. Now, all good songs deserve a good video, right? So given the circumstances of the world, how the hell did we pull that off? Well, first we needed a concept, right? So we needed to figure out, well, what's the video gonna be about? And in this case, I just wanted to keep it simple. And the song itself is called Further Down Again, and it's about repeated failures causing this feeling of sinking, like I've been falling into nothingness and drowning repeatedly over and over and over and over and over and over. Something I'm sure most artists can relate to. But with the state of the world being what it was, our options were obviously pretty limited, and it presented a lot of unique problems. So it was time to problem solve. Problem number one, the distance. Now normally for a music video shoot, I just go where the band is. We'd find a couple locations, set up our gear, all get together holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and let the cameras roll. But this was during the great Panini apocalypse, and we were still in early days of lockdown, so me traveling from Los Angeles all the way out to New Jersey wasn't really a viable option. Generally speaking, neither was holding hands, congregating at all, or singing in each other's faces. But our first problem actually ended up becoming our first solution. If we can't all be in the same room because of the distance, then we'd all never appear in the same shot. All four of us could be filmed individually, which means that I can film my parts here in Los Angeles separately, and the band can shoot all their individual scenes there in New Jersey, kind of negating the issue of distance, sort of. I mean, really what it does is solve the problem of never showing 3 minus me, or just me minus 3. Like you don't see the obvious absence of someone that's supposed to be there. You just see us all individually and you never realize that we weren't together. However, this approach presented us with problem number 2, the Zoom call effect. I hate the Zoom call effect. Now we've all seen most of the videos that came out of lockdown. They look like someone just edited together a Zoom call, you know, those 4 squares, and you see musicians in all these really drastically different locations in their studio or their bedroom or their living room or their garage or walking around outside or whatever, but obviously all in very different places. That wasn't gonna work for me. This video had been 10 years in the making. This is our first song back. I didn't want it to look like we were all just scattered around. So how do we fix that? Well, I figured, well, let's address the main problem and remove the obvious separation that you see in the Zoom call effect and create the illusion that we're together in the same space. In this case, it was by matching the background and the lighting. Now, since we're working with heavy limitations, I never really considered a green screen. That needs to be lit correctly to look good. It's a whole thing. So we just kept it really simple. We just leaned into the idea of the concept of the video falling into the darkness, and we shot on a black background. Darkness. And this was achieved on my end with a black accent wall that already existed in the dining room of my old apartment, and we just hung some thick black bed sheets in the garage for my bandmates. The little pro tip I'd give you for that though is make sure you steam them, and you want to make sure that they are pulled taut. You want them nice and tight so you have a nice flat surface. It doesn't look like a stinky old wrinkly sheet hanging up behind you. Just because we shoot in a similar space, appearing to be floating in infinite darkness, it doesn't mean that the footage is going to match. Because problem number 3, the equipment. Mainly being that we didn't have any. They didn't have any, I didn't have any. There was really no professional camera gear to be seen or used or even considered, because remember, shoestring budget. Plus, the goal was to make the footage from both locations look similar enough to edit together, creating the illusion of being in the same space. So even if I had this Blackmagic Pocket 6K that I'm shooting on right now, if they didn't have something comparable back in New Jersey, it would likely cause issues in the edit. But we did have one trick up our sleeves. Well, more like our pockets, which weren't just full of dreams and hopes and hand sanitizer. Although they were filled with sanitizer. There's a lot of sanitizer, so much sanitizer. Anyway, we had iPhones. Specifically, I had an iPhone XS Max and they had an iPhone X. And in the past, I'd actually used my iPhone as a B cam on a gimbal, so I knew it was a pretty capable little camera. So in this case, it was easier for all of us to use iPhones, and it was really easy because it's all we had. So boom, problem solved. And to maximize the iPhone cameras, I like to use an app called Filmic Pro. It gives you a bit more control over the picture with manual settings, exposure, focus, adjustable frame rates, etc. So we shot 4K, 24 frames per second with autofocus on and locked in exposure dialed in once we set the lighting. And for the lighting, we just used some Philips Hue bulbs, which is how most of my office is lit. We had them lying around in lamps in the apartment. Fortunately, so did some of my bandmates. Color, fill, black background, done. And then the rest of it was pretty simple. The only piece of gear we really needed for this was a DJI gimbal, a little mobile Osmo. And it was like $100 on Amazon. So my boys in Jersey ordered one of those bad boys, came in a couple days. We set up the sheets, we got our background set up, our cameras are ready, we're ready to rip. But no, we're not. Problem number 4, the knowledge or lack thereof. The truth is even if the guys had access to all the top tier camera gear in the world and all the lighting we could possibly hope for, it's no good if none of them know how to use it. This was another reason that shooting with the phones and the little gimbals was actually the easiest way to go and the most effective way to go because they're super simple to use, incredibly user-friendly. For lighting and basic camera instruction, we just set up an iPad in the garage over in New Jersey and I FaceTimed in. I just had my big stupid face floating around in the garage and I was telling them how to make little adjustments as needed for the lighting, for the app, what kind of passes I wanted to match the things that I already shot on my end, and it all worked out great.
Like pan around her to like move the camera from the lens.
We kept it simple enough that whoever was holding the camera could just focus on what they were shooting and none of the technical stuff because they knew not the technical stuff. So that's it, buttoned up the performance shots. Now we had to tackle problem number 5. I think I have a little bit of PTSD from this one, but problem number 5, the drowning scene. It's kind of the premise of the video. How am I gonna simulate drowning if I can't leave the apartment? I don't have a pool or a giant water tank or anything. All I have is a bathtub. So we used the bathtub. That's it, that's how we pulled that one off. Now that presented some unique challenges. First, the bathtub is white. And I don't want it to look like we're in a bathtub. So I had a black sheet lying around that we just placed at the bottom of the tub and had to keep it so that everything was, soaked and all that and flattened out, smoothed out to give this appearance of floating in darkness. The other challenge was that I don't have like a waterproof casing or housing for the phone. So we had to find something in the house that was fully transparent and watertight. In this case, what we used was this. This is actually just a clear plexiglass box that I keep a football in. That's signed by the New York Giants because go Big Blue. And what was great about this and the small form factor of the iPhone is I was able to take the phone, stick it in the case, float it on top of my big dumb face as I submerged myself into the water. Now the next problem was lighting it. So we tried an overhead light, which we didn't want to use anything that was plugged into a wall, just in case, not trying to go down that road. So we used a little portable Hue bulb, one of these little bad boys. The problem with this was it was casting a shadow right over the phone because the phone was like this close to my face inside the plexiglass box. So what we ended up doing is just scooting the phone over and placing the Hue bulb directly inside the plexiglass housing. As far as filming it goes, it was push record, stick it in the box, put box over me, waterboard self, and try to do a performance take from a music video. But it came out like this. So I have to say I'm pretty happy with. And we used the blue light to try and give it that deep, dark James Cameron in a tiny submersible thingy mabobber at the bottom of the ocean. I don't know why I just sounded like Chris Broad or something like the bottom of the ocean. And that's how we shot further down again. The last part, I'm not even gonna call problem number 6. The last part was the edit. It was pretty simple. I just color matched the footage that we got from New Jersey with the stuff that I shot here in LA, spliced in the underwater bathtub me drowning sequences, sprinkled a little bit of magic and fairy dust on top, and bam, done skis. And that's the music video. Further down again was released into the world. Outro. If there's anything that I didn't get into enough in this video that you wanted to know more about, just drop me a line below in the comments section and ask away. I am an open book. But that's it. That's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you watching and sticking around this long. If you really liked anything that I did and said or whatever here, just like and subscribe. Seriously, just real quick. Okay, thanks. So I'll be back again with another video soon. Peace.